Welcome back to ASEAN Newsroom. Global investors have tempered their optimism about the U.S. and world economies and plan to put more of their money in cash, less in commodities over the next 6 months, a Bloomberg survey found. Almost 1 in 3 of those questions say they will hold more cash, while 30% intend to reduce investments in commodities, according to a quarterly Bloomberg Global poll of 1,263 investors, analysts, and traders who are Bloomberg subscribers. Both results were the highest since the survey began asking the question last June. A plurality, 40%, expects oil prices to fall in the next 6 months. The first time respondents felt that way since the inception of this poll in July 2009. The big stimulus game is over, said Bill O'Connor, a poll participant and founder of Zagreb Main Capital Hedge Fund in New York, in explaining why he's moving money into cash as the Federal Reserve winds up its bond buying program and U.S. lawmakers look to cut the budget. Fewer than 4 in 10 of those surveys described the U.S. and global economies as improving, down from about 50% who felt that way back in January. U.S. economic growth slowed down to 1.8% in the first quarter of this year, down from 3.1% in the final 3 months of 2010. Home prices fell in more than 3/4 of U.S. cities in the first quarter of 2011, according to the National Association of Realtors. U.S. investors are more enthusiastic about their country than those in either Europe or Asia. Almost 2 in 5 Americans picked the U.S. as a top market. Only 1/3 of Asians and less than 1/4 of Europeans felt that way. Brazil and China trailed the U.S. in the poll, with 1 in 4 investors citing those countries as good places to put money. 15% singled out Japan, almost double the amount that did so in January, before the country suffered a devastating earthquake and tsunami that left 24,837 dead or missing as of May the 7th and created its stock market. Asian investors are the most confident in their regional economy, with 42% saying it is improving, compared with 31% of U.S. poll respondents and 26% of Europeans who feel that way about their areas.
Fitch revises Thailand's local currency rating outlook to stable. Election scheduled for July will be further a test of Thailand's political institutions, Fitch Ratings said in a release yesterday. If intensified instability leads to a more substantial impact on the economy and public finances, then negative pressure on its ratings could resume. However, evidence begins to build that tensions have eased materially. For example, if election results producing a clear winner are undisputed, then Thailand's relative economic robustness, fiscal stabilization, and strong external finances could exert upwards pressure on ratings, it said. Persistent political instability weighs on Thailand's sovereign creditworthiness, as reflected in the downgrade of ratings to the current levels in April 2009. According to the World Bank's governance indicators, Thailand's political stability is much weaker than the BBB median, although the other indicators are more in line with the BBB norms. The economy has weathered ongoing political uncertainty since a coup ousted the red-shirt government of Thaksin Shinawatra in 2006 and has been recovering since the recession in 2008 and 2009. Expected further tightening of monetary policy to contain still rising inflation and the impact of supply chain disruption on Japanese-owned corporations have led Fitch to revise down its 2011 growth forecast to 4% from 4.5%, with the economy expected to return to 4.5% growth next year.
Nissan's export to the U.S. rose 17% in the year. Nissan has reported the highest annual sales in its history, sending its profit up strongly. The Japanese car maker made a net profit of 319.2 billion yen, And this is on March the 31st, 2011, up from just 42 billion yen a year earlier. Its global sales for the year rose 19% to 4.2 million vehicles, which lifted revenues by 17% to 8.8 trillion yen. Nissan said that while the earthquake in Japan has disrupted its operation, it had proved its resilience. Its sales during the year were boosted by the launch of 10 new models. Growth in demand was highest in China, where Nissan saw its sales rise 36%. They increased by 19% in Europe and 17% in the US. However, sales in Japan were 5% lower.
Well, the 11th Money Expo 2011 has officially started under the concept of better money, better life. The event has kicked off today and will last until this Sunday at Challenger Hall 2 Impact Arena, Mueang Thong Thani. Visitors showing interest in learning how to control and manage their financial situations will meet representatives from over 100 government financial institutions for their advice and services. The cash flow expected to be generated from this event could amount to as much as 100 billion baht. And it is estimated that there will be up to 700,000 visitors coming to join the event. People are expected to learn not only to take control of their money, they get to participate in the seminars on investment, stock, and gold, as well as how to survive in economic crisis. The highlight of the expo is the First House campaign created by the government housing bank. The campaign strongly stimulates the commercial banks to launch home loans to compete in the market.
Global food costs rose to near a record in April as grain costs rose, increasing inflationary pressure from Beijing to Brasilia and pushing central banks to raise interest rate. The U.S. Department of Agriculture said grain production in the 2011 to 2012 crop year may rise to 2.27 billion metric tons from an estimated 2.18 billion tons in the current year. According to Food and Agricultural Organization or FAO, food prices may extend gains driven by higher crude oil costs, which will lead to accelerating inflationary pressure from China to the U.S. Hiroyuki Konuma, the FAO's regional representative in Asia, mentioned that in Bangkok, the main concern is that crude oil prices have been volatile with no sign that prices will sharply decline. Food price spikes have driven 44 million people into poverty since June last year, according to World Bank, and also contributed to riots across North Africa and the Middle East that toppled leaders in Egypt and Tunisia. FAO representative shared that decline in March might not represent a reverse in the long-term trend, as the overall conditions that have been forcing food prices higher have not changed. Analysts say that the global food prices may rise 4.4% to a record 240 points by the end of the year, driven by demand for meat, oilseeds, and grains used to make ethanol. Turmoil in oil-producing countries, including Libya, pushed crude above $100 a barrel in March and April. Higher crude prices make biofuels produced from crops more competitive, while raising the cost of tractor fuel and fertilizer for farmers. Konoma added that planting area for wheat and corn appears to be on an increasing trend because farmers will choose to plant the most profitable commodity, which will help slow food cost increases.